Ron DeSantis authorizes the use of AI generated deepfake photos of Donald Trump hugging and kissing Dr. Fauci in a recent campaign ad, adding to the attacks already mounting against former President Trump in an attempt to stop him from running for president. Attacks like having to plead not guilty to 37 federal charges in a Miami court. The charges that former director James Comey said no prosecutor would bring against Hillary Clinton for the mishandling of classified documents. The political corruption is on full display, and we're going to talk about it. I'm your host, Hyde. This is Hide and Seek Media. Hello, all you beautiful and amazing people. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the show. If you're new to the channel, here at Hide and Seek Media, what I'm going to try to do is bring you a blue-collar, common-sense perspective on politics, culture, and sports. In this episode today, we're going to talk about the attacks mounting against Donald Trump and why everybody is just so hell-bent on trying to stop him from becoming president again. It seems to me that there are a lot of people who just want to go back to the way it was, ignoring all the problems that are going on in this country, burying their heads back in the sand and not wanting to face the problems head on. A lot of these Trump supporters from 2016 that decided they didn't want to support Donald Trump in 2020 because they were just tired of all of the nonsense and the media, hoopla and whatever. And so they just said, oh, well, anything's better than Trump. Well, unfortunately, that kind of mindset is what's going to push us right over the edge and push this country to completely fail. I mean, if you haven't noticed, this country is falling apart under the Biden administration. Everything is terrible. Crime is up. Jobs are stagnant no matter what the Biden administration tries to tell you, right? The inflation is up. Like, the cost of everything is just outrageous now. All of these things are bad, right? No foreign adversaries really respect this administration enough to fear it. So there's a lot of problems going on currently in the United States. And a lot of people who used to be Trump supporters are now DeSantis supporters. And look, I get it. Ron DeSantis was is a good governor and could maybe do a good job in the office. But I don't know that he's the right person for right now. See, this is a critical point in this country, and if we don't take the right steps and go down the right path, we may not have a country in 10 years. I mean, if we look at all the infighting that's going on now, all the division that's being sowed in this country right now, and look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm not part of that, because I am part of that in some ways, because I don't agree with the radical left side of the Democrat Party. Now, there was a time when the libertarian in me did agree with some parts of the Democrat Party, back in the 90s, in the early 2000s, when they were still sort of sane, right? Now they've gone completely off the deep end. And so they've pushed all of those moderates basically over to what is now known as the right. And that is part of the plan in the grand scheme of things, is to sow division and create a conflict within the country to make the country fall apart from within instead of from outside forces, right? That was the whole plan from the get-go, and it's working. I mean, pay attention. Look around you sometime. Try talking politics with somebody and see just how well that actually goes. It, it's very, very divisive in this country right now. And, the divisiveness has even hit the Republican Party. So much so that now you have like Ron DeSantis, who is arguably the second leading Republican candidate for president behind Donald Trump, right? If Trump wasn't running, if he just dropped out tomorrow, Ron DeSantis would be the leading nominee by far in the Republican Party. I like Vivek Ramaswamy. I think he is a stronger candidate than DeSantis for this term coming up. DeSantis would be good at managing what we put in place. He's not going to fight the fight the way the fight needs to be fought in Washington, D.C., like Donald Trump is. The revenge tour of Donald Trump will do exactly what this country needs, and it'll clean out all of the fungus and all of the rot and just garbage that is in Washington, D.C. But Ron DeSantis is going to lose supporters if he doesn't do this tactfully. Right now, I'm not in the Ron DeSantis camp. Right, I am in the Trump camp. Make no mistake about it. I think Donald Trump is the only person that can right the ship quickly, because it needs to be done quickly. It doesn't need to be done over 8 years, and that's what Ron DeSantis' plan would be. Let's do this over 8 years and make sure I get reelected. We don't have to worry about that, Donald Trump, because Donald Trump isn't about getting reelected. He's about helping the country. And so there's a lot of people that are starting to pull away from Ron DeSantis because of his recent tact or his recent tactics when it comes to attacking Donald Trump. Now, what I'm talking about is him recently releasing a campaign ad in which he used deep fakes to throw shade at Donald Trump. So he had AI generated images of Donald Trump hugging and kissing Dr. Fauci added into real photos, into a collage with real photos of Donald Trump, and then titled it Real Trump in the video to make everyone think that these were real photos of Donald Trump. Now, if you haven't seen the campaign ad, I've got it pulled up here, and I'm going to play it for you now so you can see, and I'm going to pause it and show you where the ad, where the fakes are. All right, so I've got the video pulled up here. So let's go ahead and watch it.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You're all fired. All four are fired. You're fired.
I didn't want you to be fired.
Today I walk in, I hear I'm going to fire him. I'm not firing him. I think he's a wonderful guy.
Should you have fired
Real
Fauci?
life Trump.
So a lot of people ask me that question, and I did it right. Because if you do fire him, you're going to have a firestorm on the left again.
Why did you feel unable to fire Fauci? First of all, you're not allowed to.
Every time you go.
Right here. Okay, so I'm going to pause it right here. Now, can you spot the deep fakes? Because I spotted them right away. It's these two and this one. This one, you can tell one of these, like, I think is it this one? No, I think it may be this one. This one here down in the bottom center. Looks like it may be Donald Trump, the image of Donald Trump hugging the flag. Remember that famous image of him hugging and kissing the flag? Instead, they just took out the flag and put Fauci. I mean, and of course, yeah. These are real. These three are real, right? These three are fake. And so that is an issue with me because, like, that's dirty pool. Like, that's dirty pool in my book. Like, you don't do that kind of stuff, right? And I'm not the only one who had a problem with that. Got a Larry here. Isn't that because they're smart? Why didn't they drain the swamp? Why didn't Trump drain the swamp during his presidency? Well, if you've watched any interviews with Don Jr. Or Donald Trump himself, you would know that they went into it ignorant and maybe a little naive as to how much control the president really had and what they could actually do. Bureaucracy got in the way of draining the swamp the first time. But that's why President Trump put in Executive Order Schedule F to where it would allow him to fire people. Then he didn't win in 2020. And so the Biden administration got rid of that. When Trump comes back, he's going to bring that back. And then he's going to start firing people that don't belong there anymore, who have spent way too long in the swamp and need to be gone. But there are certain reasons, that he could not fire certain people like Fauci, right? Even if he did fire Fauci, like he said, there would have been a major firestorm and he would have been attacked relentlessly by the media for firing Dr. Fauci, the head of, all that bullshit. So, I understand he didn't follow through with draining the swamp the first time. But, okay, that doesn't mean that he won't follow through with it in his second term, where he doesn't have to worry about being reelected and he can just set the entire thing ablaze, right? But I want to get to this story here from the New York Times, right? Because it's not just me and some other Trump supporters that have a problem with this, apparently. There are other people who think that was just a little dirty using AI generated images to attack Trump when you didn't need to. You want to attack Trump on Dr. Fauci and COVID, go right ahead. Those mistakes were made. And of course, Donald Trump and his ego isn't going to admit that, right? But all of us who actually pay attention to what he says and understand the man that Donald Trump is, I don't need him to admit to me that he made a mistake. As long as he doesn't make that mistake going forward, right? He doesn't make that same mistake where he does not fire somebody when they need to be fired. I'm good. And as long as he tells me that mistake is not going to be made again, and people around him are going to tell me that mistake is not going to be made again, then I have all the reason to vote for Donald Trump again in 2024 because of everything else he accomplished in his first term. So here is what the New York Times has to say about DeSantis. This is DeSantis' campaign uses apparently fake images to attack Trump on Twitter. The images, which at first glance appear genuine and are interspersed with real photographs in a campaign video, purport to show Donald Trump hugging and kissing Dr. Anthony Fauci. Excuse me. As Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida begins to aggressively attack former President Donald J. Trump, his campaign has spread 3 images of the former president embracing Dr. Anthony S. Fauci that forensic experts say are almost certainly realistic-looking deep fakes generated by artificial intelligence. The images, which at first glance appear genuine, are interspersed with real photographs in a campaign video, show Mr. Trump hugging and kissing Dr. Fauci, who led the nation's pandemic response and has been a target of harsh criticism from Mr. DeSantis. The governor has used the pandemic to contrast himself with his main rival for the Republican presidential nomination. So right here, this kind of bothers me, and just on a side note, I don't know why, but this right here, Mr. Trump, that kind of bothers me because anytime you read an article about Mr. Obama, the word president or former president is always put in front of his name, but not Donald J. Trump. That kind of bothers me. They did it up here, former President Donald J. Trump, right? Why can't you say former President Trump, shows former President Trump hugging and kissing Dr. Fauci? Was that so hard to do? Put some respect on that man, right? He was the president of the United States. and will be again. Make no mistake. So they go on to say, a Twitter account run by Mr. DeSantis' campaign posted the images, part of a video attacking Mr. Trump on Monday. The news agency Agent France Press first reported that they appeared fake on Wednesday. The governor's campaign did not respond to a request for comment. Now, they did, however, respond to Tim Pool when he tweeted, or when he commented on the tweet, and then basically pushed back, saying that Donald Trump has shared memes of Ron DeSantis riding a rhino. How is that any different? And it's like, because everybody knows that the meme of Ron DeSantis riding a rhino is obviously fake. There's no way on earth I would ever believe that a photo of Ron DeSantis sitting on a rhinoceros is actually real. Okay? No way. The photos they put in their video were purposefully made to deceive the American people and to deceive Trump voters who may or may not know that those photographs are real. And they have no shame about it. That, to me, is a problem. Let's see. Larry says, maybe Trump put a MAGA hat on the swamp. Okay. That's a fair point. I'm not going to argue against that. I don't have, an argument against that, because I didn't agree with all of his picks. I didn't agree with, what was his name? Ron Tillman or whatever, Tillerson or whatever his name was, was he Secretary of State? Yeah. Didn't even know who that guy was. So I agree. John Bolton, another one. I didn't agree with that pick. Okay. Yeah, Trump didn't do everything right in the first term, but when you go into a new field, a new arena, a new job, a new career that you've never done before in your entire life, you're bound to make mistakes. You're not going to get everything right the first time. But Donald Trump is a man that comes off as somebody who does not make the same mistake twice. He learns from the mistakes and he moves forward. So I firmly believe that he's not going to make that same mistake twice. Right? The Times goes on to report Mr. Trump's Republican allies criticized the DeSantis campaign. On Thursday, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio wrote on Twitter, smearing Donald Trump with fake AI images is completely unacceptable. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia agreed, saying those fake AI campaign ads need to be taken down immediately. Now, look, I don't care if they're not taken down. That doesn't really bother me, because Twitter, under the leadership of Elon Musk, has put a community note on it, letting you know that at a certain point there are images that appear to be AI generated and are not legitimate. So when you see this video on Twitter, you'll get that community note, and you'll get the reference, and you'll understand that not all of those photos with him and Dr. Fauci are real, right? And then you can use your eye, the naked eye test, and just try and think back. When did you ever see Dr. Fauci and President Trump embrace? Hi, girls. I've never seen it, and I can't ever recall ever seeing it. And so it's obvious that those three images I showed you earlier were fake. So they go on to say, in turn, DeSantis' camp suggested the images were obviously fake, comparing them to memes circulated by Mr. Trump and his allies. But those images, which included a video of Mr. DeSantis in a woman's suit adapted from The Office and a recording of a conversation between Mr. DeSantis, Adolf Hitler, and the devil, were clearly intended to be humorous and easy to discern as doctored. These were not. On Twitter, Christina Pashaw, Christina Pashaw, the DeSantis campaign's rapid response director, shared a fake photograph of Mr. DeSantis riding a rhinoceros. a reference to accusations that he is a Republican in name only, or Rhino, writing, "I think this might be an AI generated image. Who knows?" The image, which appeared to be photoshopped, had earlier been posted by Mr. Trump on his Truth Social website. As the 2024 campaign heats up, the use of such deepfakes has been of urgent concern to those who study manipulated images, which, thanks to a new technology, are easier to generate than ever before. While Americans have grown far more skeptical of reports in the print, digital, and broadcast news media, experts say they have been more likely to trust videos and image that they could examine with their own eyes. The advent of deepfakes could change that. And that's true. And I'm gonna pause right there and just, because that is the scary thing about this deepfake situation, right? Is it's not just the photos. Is it what happens when they decide to do a video and they make it look like it's a behind the scenes or a video that was not supposed to be leaked out into the media, right? And you can do all of this with manipulation and editing, right? But what if they do a deep fake of Donald Trump saying, some horrendous words, or they take a speech that Donald Trump gave and they change 2 or 3 words to make it sound way worse than it really was. Now, if you didn't watch the speech live, you're not going to know that those words were changed and that the entire premise of the speech or the entire vibe of the speech was changed because those few little parts were manipulated. If you don't know that, which is very possible nowadays, then you can easily derail someone's campaign with deep fakes. So it is very concerning, and we need to find a way to make sure that these deep fakes don't get into campaign ads and such. There needs to be a provision or a law or something written to where any candidate found to be using AI generated deep fake images in their campaign ads to smear another opponent should be banned from ever running for office ever again. I think that is the dirtiest thing you could do, right? That is the worst of the worst when it comes to cheating, right? Because that is just downright nasty. I mean, and what I found even more abhorrent about it was the fact that he did it on the cusp of Donald Trump being indicted in Florida, right? The news came out that Trump was being indicted, and then and then they launched this campaign ad to attack him, and it was like, are you serious? The man is already going through an horrible attack by the deep state and the media right now, which he's been going through since 2015 when the man came down the elevator and said, "I'm running for president of the United States." From that moment on, Donald Trump became enemy number one to the deep state, to the establishment, the deep state, whatever you want to call it, right? The powers that be, the global elites, the people who want to control the world, all these, the Klaus Schwabs of the world, the World Economic Forums, right? The Davos groups, all those people. He became enemy number one when he decided to run for president and stand up for the American people and this country. So what did they do? They tried to impeach him twice. Didn't work. And as a matter of fact, they tried to impeach him for the same thing that is now coming out about Joe Biden, which we're going to get to in a little bit. So stay tuned, because I am going to get into the Joe Biden bribery stuff here in a little bit. But the indictment that came out about Donald Trump in Florida, right? Apparently, he's being indicted like 37 counts of mishandling documents and obstruction or whatever. All of it's crap, because when you actually look into the Presidential Records Act, right, all authority is given to the president, solely to the president, on what is deemed presidential records and what is deemed personal records. So, and the president has sole authority to declassify anything he wants, whenever he wants, as long as he's president. So, whether he announced it to the whole room or just took those documents and put them in his personal things, right? Once he put those documents in his personal things, it became his personal property. And that there's precedent in that. Let me see if I can find this this clip. Donald Trump says it in his speech. And I don't know if I've got it. Doesn't look like I've got that clip pulled up. But in his speech after his arraignment or whatever, and he pled not guilty in Florida and he went back to Bedminster. Excuse me. In his speech, he talks about Bill Clinton's sock tapes, right? Now, for all of you youngins out there who don't know anything about Bill Clinton's presidency, let me fill you in, right? When Bill Clinton left as president, he took 79 tapes of recordings of meetings with foreign nationals and discussions about military operations, both offensive and defensive, right? Highly classified stuff. 79 tapes. I'll make sure I got that buried in your head there. 79 tapes. Recordings. This is audio recordings of highly sensitive discussions that were in his sock drawer. And when he was sued over this, the court ruled in Bill Clinton's favor, said that the minute he took those tapes and stuck them in his personal property, they became personal belongings to the president, and it was no longer considered presidential records. So, the minute all of those records made it to Mar-a-Lago, they became personal belongings to the president, deemed as such by the president, who has the sole authority to do that. But, there are some organizations out there like this one here in the BBC who want to make this sound way worse than it really was, right? What's in the Trump indictment? U.S. nuclear secrets and files kept in shower, okay? And, yeah, he had a lot of boxes, kept them in the bathroom, apparently. So what? But U.S. nuclear secrets? Like, that broad statement, right? I love the BBC. And if you saw my video about Andrew Tate, the BBC is a joke, right? Like, and if you haven't, go check that out, because Andrew Tate completely demolishes the BBC in his first ever interview since being released from jail. It was great. It was fantastic. That the credibility of the BBC has gone completely down. And the only reason why I'm using them instead of alternative media like, timcast.com or the Daily Wire is because I want to show that I'm not biased in the news that I absorb, right? I read what the BBC has to say. I read what the New York Times has to say and the Washington Post. But I also look at the New York Post and, the Guardian and the Post Millennial and timcast.com and Daily Wire. So I get my news from a broad spectrum of sources. And that's because I want to be well informed and I want to hear what all sides have to say about the situation and not just one side. I don't want to live in an echo chamber and hear only the positive things, right? That's why I think on another side note, a little tangent here, I think Donald Trump only staying on truth is stupid. You know, he should be on Twitter so he can see what the other side has to say about him, because they'll say it to his face on Twitter, right? You know, you get all those guys, those what were they called? Reply guys, right? Where they just go in and reply to all of his tweets and, you know, comment on all his tweets. But, you know, so when you live in your own little echo chamber, you don't hear all of the news. You don't hear all of the opinions. And so in my mind, you can't be well informed or have a well articulated opinion of any kind, because you only heard one side. You're only taking in information from one side. You're not taking it in from all sides. So that's why I use the BBC and the New York Times, is, you know, to show that I'm not just taking information from timcast.com or the Daily Wire, right? Or, you know, Steven Crowder or the Blaze, right? I get my news from everywhere. And then I take all of that and I just try to discern the truth in everybody's article. So I'm not going to get into too much of this, because obviously the BBC doesn't have a whole lot of credibility with me, or in the you know, media circles for that matter anymore. But let's go ahead and see what they had to say. It says the 37-count indictment accuses him of keeping the files at his Florida estate, including in a ballroom and a shower, and lying to investigators. Okay, he didn't lie to investigators. Under the Presidential Records Act, he took what he took, and then, you know, the National Archives or whatever negotiates what they can take back from Trump. But if he deemed it personal property or declassified it and deemed it personal property, they have no rights to it. Go read the Presidential Act if you don't believe what I'm saying, right? He has sole authority to deem what is declassified, what is classified, what is personal property, what is presidential property.